I see Elad here.
Hey, everyone.
Elad,
Hey.
Hello.
the floor is yours, sir. 10 minutes. Can you share your screen?
Yeah. Can you see my screen? We're good?
Awesome. It's perfect.
Good.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Really excited to be here and share about our health tech startup. So we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to jump right into it. Okay, so our company is focused first of all on we're starting in the cannabis market. So I just want to mention, a few things about the cannabis market. Maybe we know it, but we obviously know that it's a big industry and it's a growing one. But worth mentioning that in the next few years, 80% of the cannabis market will still be focused on North America. Now, there's various reasons why people actually consume cannabis, and the majority of them are more focused on health and wellness and not, that alternative to alcohol or just having fun with friends. Yet when we look on how many people actually consume cannabis, we see that today still 60% of the population isn't consuming cannabis. And we see that as a big opportunity. So we wanted to check, why are people not consuming cannabis? And there's various reasons, but the main reasons are all focused around two things. One is that people don't want to smoke or vape. And the second one is that people don't want to have an experience that they're not controlling, something that they didn't expect. So we set to solve that thing. And our solution was to allow consumers to add cannabis very precisely to their beverages. The way to do that, you use our dispenser, you connect it a pod with cannabis, you click them together, there's a screen and buttons, you dial in your dose and you get a drop with an accurate dose to your beverage, and you can drink it. So it's simple, precise, and portable. And many times when we present this, we're asked, well, why not sell a beverage in a can or a bottle, what's called RTD, ready to drink? So there's two reasons for that. I'll do it fairly quick. One, what is a cannabis beverage? And we claim that cannabis beverage has three main components. One is the cannabis itself. So that's how will it make you feel. The second one is the dose. A low dose compared to a high dose is two different beverages. And then there's the beverage itself. What do you want to drink? And tying all of them together doesn't really make sense. So when we look on the stakeholders, both the consumers and the companies, we think there's some challenges with this ready to drink, and that our solution is a win-win. Consumers need to kind of mix everything together, and maybe, you have one drink with specific cannabis that two people want with a different dose, and that's already two SKUs. When you look at the companies, now they have higher costs for manufacturing when they're making RTD. They need more shelf space, and it's just not as efficient. So how does our product work? Well, we're allowing this dispensing and accurate dosing to be very simple and precise. Our pods are interchangeable, meaning you can have a few and just change between them. There's no cross-contamination, so this is very important. If you have a THC pod in, you take it out, you put a CBD pod inside. There's no chance you'll get THC, and they're tamper-proof, so they're very safe for yourself and your family. And last but not least, we have an app that allows extra control for the consumers that want that. And a lot of times when we share that, people are telling us, well, that's how I would design it the same, but what's so special? So we actually put 18 months of R&D into this. And, I can dive for 20 minutes about our technology. My team allowed me to speak only about one thing. So if you want to listen to the rest, I'm inviting you for a deep dive. So let's talk about the pod and dispenser communication, for example. And what we did there is we installed an RFID tag on each one of our pods and an RFID reader on each one of our dispensers. And that allows us to put different liquids in the pods, different viscosities, but communicate it with the dispenser and always be able to dispense that 1 milligram very accurately. The other thing we can do is we can limit the dosing according to regulation. So for example, in Canada, there's a limit of 10 milligrams THC. We can write that on the pod and block it. So that allows us to be regulatory approved. And the last thing that's, as important is we can actually make sure that all pods are original and nobody's adding pods that are fake into our ecosystem. So from a go-to-market perspective, our model is as follows. We manufacture the pods, but then we sell them empty to our partners, and they fill them, they label them, package them, put them under their own brand. It's essentially a white label opportunity for them. Then if applicable, they go to the government, to the retail stores and consumers. The other part of our business is we need to get dispensers into people's hands. We have two approaches there. One is we sell it in a starter pack together with the pod, and our partners love that option. And the second thing is we sell directly to the stores or to accessory stores, or again through our website or our partner's website. And worth mentioning, we have a few partners. I'll talk about that in a second. And now we ran a market research with a company called Dig Insight. And again, there's much to talk here. I'm just going to show a few highlights, but we're going to do a bit more deep dive in this on next Tuesday. So when we asked consumers about our product, we presented our concept. The main three things that came is consumers said, hey, this product is precise, simple, and portable. But above all, as you can see, they gave us value. And this is not reflecting price. This is just the value you think this product will give them as consumers. When we did introduce price, 6 out of 10 said they're interested to purchase this. And this was completely in line with other concepts that are familiar with and with general CPG guidelines. Now, we're not the only ones claiming this. There's a lot of companies moving to this concept of make your own drink. I want to share one that's really interesting called Cureleaf, and they launched a product called Select Squeeze. And Cureleaf is the biggest MSO, and MSO is a multi-state operator. It's our equivalent to a licensed producer in Canada. They're worth above $10 billion, and they decided not to do a ready-to-drink, but rather make your own drink. The interesting part is they did not launch with a dropper or a syringe. They have a proprietary bottle. It doesn't give the same capabilities as ours. And we believe that puts a lot of pressure now on the competition to find a solution, and it puts us exactly in the right time, in the right place. The other thing worth mentioning is when you look at the industry today from statistics, 60% is already make your own drink. Some of them are bottles with a cup dose, so very not sophisticated stuff. But it shows where the industry is going, and our prediction is, at the end of the day, 80% will be make your own drink, and only 20% will be sold in bottles. So how does it work from a financial perspective? On the unit level, as I mentioned, we manufacture them, but we sell them empty, and our partners do the filling, distribution, and sales. So once we start crossing that critical stage of quantity above that 1 million units, for us, the cost drops below $1. Then when we go to see how much we can sell this to our partners, we're looking on, for example, cartridges from the vape industry as a comparable. So 510s sell for $3, and packs that is more premium goes to $9. So the companies are willing to pay a lot of money here. So we believe that $4 puts us completely in a place they'll be willing to pay, and leaves us 75% of gross margin. Now, from a roadmap perspective, we're looking to be on the market by the end of the year, but there's a few milestones that help us get to this place. First one is we're patent pending. We submitted it back in July. We submitted in the States and also in international. We already got our first review. It was very positive. We gave amendments to it, and now we're in the waiting process. We also submitted our product to Health Canada, and we're allowed to sell it here in Canada. And we were also learned that our partners did the same and also passed the approval process. So very encouraging. And speaking of which, we signed a deal with 2 Canadian cannabis companies. They work both in the medical and in the recreational market, and they have existing consumers. It's not companies that are just starting. They actually are in the industry already today. We also signed a deal with a company called Highbar, and Highbar is essentially doing bars and events with cannabis instead of alcohol. So we see that as a great way to expand our brand, but also, a new sales channel. So how does the financials work on the big level? And again, this is something that if you're interested, we'd be more than willing to share in the deep dive more information. But I want to start with how it works and why it's so scalable. So one, we don't sell cannabis. We don't have a license. We don't plan to. And that means we can cross borders and go to the States, go to Europe, and whenever we want. Second of all, we do hardware. And as you saw that graph, the more we manufacture, the lower our costs. We have regional partners supporting us in each new market to expand quickly. We have very low setup costs. So most cannabis companies can very easily adjust and fill our pods, but if not, it's a $50,000 investment, not more. And last thing is, as we mentioned, we work with brands, so we can use their existing consumer base and have a quick organic growth. So when you look on the right side in our financial projections, essentially what you're seeing is both Canada and then adding US and Europe. And for example, Canada, after 3 years, we're only assuming we have 6 recreational partners. We're not being over aggressive in this. Now, from an exit opportunity, just before I dive to the exit itself, I think what's interesting is because we're not only developing a technology, but also an ecosystem, is that there will be an exit opportunity, in our opinion, soon. We'll be able to just do an exit on the cannabis side, but focus our product in other verticals such as pharma and vitamins, which we see a very big market as well. Just cannabis is the low-hanging fruit. And then we look into cannabis. So I want to first start with Greenhouse and Kushku that just merged and are worth $300 million. And they sell hardware for vaping, but not branded. And then you have PAX that actually has an ecosystem, as do we're planning, and it's 1.7 billion. So that's kind of the place where we see the valuation going eventually when we finish growing. And all the companies on here, whether they're cannabis, alcohol, tobacco, pharma, or CPG, have already done moves of purchasing companies like ourselves. Now, I couldn't be here without my team. I'll just do a quick background of the team. Myself, I'm originally from Israel. I have a master's in system engineering, and I worked there in the aerospace industry and robotics. I came to Canada 7 years ago to get my MBA and joined the cannabis industry a few years ago and started Voyager 2 years ago. Gio, my co-founder, we met the first day of the MBA. He has a vast experience in big construction projects. And after his MBA, he started being a consultant, including working with 48 North, which is a cannabis brand here in Canada. We started talking cannabis, and it was just very natural for us to start this company together. And Aryan, who's a close family friend with Gio, joined us early on, and he's a CPG expert. Aryan worked at Procter & Gamble's, was president of Kara here in Canada, and also ran the Mars food business in Canada. We're raising $1.6 million at 6.4 million valuation. I will mention that we raised $450,000 back in 2019. And in this round, we already have an aerospace company here in Toronto that's invested in us and supporting us through material and manufacturing. And the main two things we want to do with this fundraise is, one, scale up our manufacturing and launch in the lead market. Once we do that launch, our revenue will support us so we can continue expanding. But once we prove our model, we do want to raise again and just expand faster, as I mentioned, to the States, to Europe. And if you want to learn more, we invite you to our deep dive. There's a few topics we'll dive into, and happy to do more Q&A. Thanks, and looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Elad. We've got about 7 minutes left in our Q&A, and there's a lot of questions that are popping up. So I'm just going to dive right in, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
First one is from Kevin. How accurate, fine-tuned is the dispenser?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So right now we're reaching with our experiments plus minus 3% of accuracy. We do believe that will be improved once we finish our electronics, and that's in manufacturing right now. So right now we're just with off the table, off the shelf stuff. But if you saw that technology slide, that is our PCB that's being manufactured at the moment. Okay.
And how does the controller know which product is in the pod? And then how much volume to dispense?
Yeah, so that goes to the example I gave of the RFID. So the RFID itself will have information on it saying this liquid is as much viscous and therefore requires a specific amount of, we use electric pulses and operate it. We have a very strong electric pulse through that small device.
Okay, and strength of your IP, please. What are you protecting? What are you not protecting? What's the future looking like?
Sure. So our patent was submitted, as I mentioned, July 2019, actually. Now we submit, it's patent pending. And there's a few claims there that are going to support what we're doing. So for example, you cannot dispense in the wrong angle. And that's very important because we have liquid and air inside. And if I have air in the wrong places of the device, then it's going to jam the system. So putting that and controlling the angle is actually very patentable. Then we're dispensing directly from the pod and not going through the dispenser. You never need to clean it. There's a lot of small technologies there that are very patentable. If you think about a coffee device machine, like an espresso, the coffee pouch. Right. So those small things are very patentable. And again, when we submitted and we got it back from review, most claims were not challenged.
Okay, good. A question from Aaron. What are the alternatives and what are their shortcomings? Why are you better than the rest of the?
Yeah, so there's a few alternatives and depends how wide we want to go. So the real one competitor we have is what we mentioned is Curaleaf. But then, you have companies that will sell it in bottles, maybe syringes and droppers. And, the comparable to them is generally you can't really dose even though people think, oh, I can dosing with syringes are very difficult, it's not accurate. And you also need to do that conversion from volume to active ingredients that you asked me about, right? That's milliliter to milligram, which is very difficult. Then if you think about edibles or pills that come already dosed, then pills is an activity that people don't like usually, and it's also not that customizable. It's a 10 milligram. Maybe I want 6. And the same goes to edibles, but edibles have, we're trying to add cannabis to another ingredient just to sell it. And I think that's a shortcoming by itself, right? I'm selling you the wrong.
Right. Okay. One from Mira. Can you share more about, nice to see all the progress in the development timeline. Can you share more about when you will be in market and what has to happen for a successful market launch?
Yeah, sure. So for us to be in the market, I think 2 things need to happen. One is we need to finalize our manufacturing. So we need to raise this money so we can get our molds and get all the manufacturing line up and running. And then to be in the market, we need to do 2 things in parallel. We don't only need to put pods in the market, we need to put dispensers, right? So that's part of why we need to fundraise right now. So we can put dispensers. It's kind of like buying people into the ecosystem. And then the pods kind of support it. So that's how it works. And we also have, it's mentioned in the presentation, we have a co-packer. So we can start with pods by ourselves and start the ecosystem and then invite people to join us, just to kind of make sure that there's the party starting.
And this kind of, cues into the next question is, what is the capacity to scale production of both the dispenser brain and the pods?
Yeah, so we're not planning to manufacture them ourselves. There's manufacturers that do this. The dispenser itself, just to kind of simplify it, the dispenser is mainly electronics. That's how we keep our costs focused in one place.
Right.
And that we're already ready for manufacturing. So I can press a button and get 1,000 or 10,000. It doesn't matter. The more I manufacture, the cheaper. There's factories around the world.
Good.
The pod, on the other hand, is mainly plastic. So that's where we need the mold and start manufacturing. We definitely want to start manufacturing in Ontario first. We have a partner here, and then go overseas.
Okay. Very quickly, I know that this is a clarification. Are there any regulatory hurdles for Canada and the US? I think there you said no, because you're a hardware manufacturer. You're not distributing cannabis itself.
So there's 2 ways to look at this question. There's regulation that we need our product to work around. So for example, in Canada, you can't dispense more than 10 milligrams of THC. Our product can prevent that. So we're making sure of that, so we work within the regulation. But then our dispenser itself, it's not a cannabis product, so we don't need any approval. Also, our pod, as long as it doesn't have cannabis inside, it's not a cannabis product, so we sell it empty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need a license.
Okay. Can we go to your deal slide, please? Actually, I should have told you to.
To me, to yours, sorry?
Yeah, a deal slide, please. What are you looking for?
Yeah,
you're looking for the, very quickly, you're looking for 1.6 million, pre-money of 6.4. We know the cap. So 2 questions. How much of this has been soft circled so far? And how long is this going to take you? And there was a pre-money value, so it's an equity investment. Okay.
Yeah, so on the cap table, you're seeing our safe investors, the ones that came in 2019, our earlier investors. This round, we kind of just started it. And due to COVID, we don't have a big Rolodex. So that's where we're doing events like this and starting to expand our network. We are getting now looked through a few VCs and some bigger companies in the States because of what happened with Curaleaf. So that kind of opened the door to us. And we have Deshaun, which is the Earth-based company, Deshaun Limited, that are investing in us in $50,000, both material and time in their machining. So these guys work with SpaceX and are helping us develop these pods.
All right. And what's your timeline for this 1.6? Is it the next 2 quarters, close it, the next quarter, close it, and then move on to the next one? And what should we see on the next one?
Yeah.
The next one?
So it's a few questions. I have to say, I'm Israeli. So when you ask me what's my timeline, it's yesterday. Yesterday, absolutely, and nothing else. I think that a lot of companies forget that the goal is to get a product in the market and not fundraise. So I hope the fundraise will be as short as possible and not take us too much time so we can focus on what's important. And going forward to our next raise, I just want to be very clear about this. One thing that we as a company made sure all the time is we don't fundraise if we don't achieve specific milestones. We didn't want to go here before we have a product ready, before the last time, before we achieve the right milestones, and we feel the same right now. So we want to be ready with our manufacturing, ready on the market, prove it, and then go and fundraise again, not before that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. The poll is up. The deep
Poll up.
dive is next Tuesday, April 20th, 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon. So please join us then. We can get really deep on the tech and what's in the brain and in the pods. I asked a lot of questions during the deal screening, so I know there's a lot more there to unpack. So check your gold sheets, and we'll invite everybody to the deep dive session. So I'm going to count it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Super. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.